are some cues you can use to explain releasing the hips on the box squat? I don't know. I'm not sure that I'm a huge fan of that. I just like to make sure they pause in the box long enough. I'm gonna be ordering food here in a minute. I like to make sure they pause in the box long enough to stop all momentum. And the reason is, with the population I had and a lot of people that I've worked with, we try to get them to release their hips, they take it too far, and everything just relaxes and it kind of looks like shit, and they start rolling too much. Like they'll roll the hips back and then roll forward. So,
McDonald's, how can I help you?
hold on. Can I get 2 bacon, egg, and cheese on a biscuit, please, and 2 hash browns?
Anything else?
No, that'll be it.
Alrighty, so it's gonna come out to $7.59.
Getting fucking huge. So I really don't. Thanks, Brandon. You too, man. So I never really coached releasing the hips. If an athlete can do it without making their squat too sloppy, I let them kind of roll with it. Like I know Louis teaches a little more kind of a release and then snap the hips on. But I never really taught that much. The problem was people just kind of take it too far, and it turns the squat into kind of a shitty looking, I don't know. So I stayed away from it. But so the big thing I would do is just make sure they pause. Like they have to sit, and that relaxes the glutes too, I think, enough to get the same training effect. Just get it like a pause so all momentum stops, and then come up. So I like I said, I always kind of stayed away from that, especially if you're working with large groups. Kind of can turn into a shit show pretty quick. Do I do much with extra workouts on off days or later on in the training day? Not enough. I don't know. Let's make it happen. Let's get to Tennessee. I don't have anything lined up near Tennessee right now. But anyways, the extra workouts, I've been doing more lately because I've been kind of beat up. And that's a problem with things. We don't do them until we absolutely have to. In the past, when I've done them on my own more, I do feel better. I've been doing a better job lately with those. Maybe I can post some. It's kind of hard to explain.
Alright, sir,
thank you. I just been doing some real easy stuff before bed. Low back stuff, push blood on my low back, and I'll post some of these later. Stuff for my shoulder, just push-ups like on the bathroom sink, right? Like an easier push-up, 100 total reps or 3x20 works good. Push blood on your shoulders. A lot of external rotation work with the shoulder lately, which seems to be helping. Just easy stuff to push blood around to areas you're having problems with is all you got to do. And 3x20, 100 total reps on whatever. Doesn't seem like much at the time, but over the course of a month or so, it adds up, and you can kind of feel it starts making a difference. So good. I'll start. So I recommend them because I do feel better when I do them. But maybe I'll post some of those. I was thinking about exercise of the day or whatever. Absolutely. I'm down. We can open it up too. Try to make you guys some money if you want. Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too. We're gonna change the name of this to Breakfast with Fat Ass. I think this next question is kind of long, so let me get going here a little bit. When do you use strength, speed, and explosive waves instead of speed strength? All right, so good question. But I feel like anytime I read about these different phases you're talking about, or depending on who you read or what you read, it's defined differently. So for my purposes, I made it real simple, like, and I could be off, but this is just how I simplified it in my mind. So strength speed is moving a heavy load fast, but the emphasis is on load. Okay, not max effort work. We're talking dynamic effort work right now. True explosive work is just body weight. Okay, jumps, sprints, stuff like that. And then speed strength to me was move a light load fast, where the emphasis is on speed. So it's basically going to be less bar weight. All right, so this is where I fucking hate drawing out long training plans, because I don't know where the athletes are going to be in 12 weeks. When we started getting close to something we needed to peak for is when I started messing around with these. Otherwise, you're, for the most part, going to be in, I think, so I was not in any of those most of the year. So to me, strength speed, I'm going to have like 60 to 70% of my max on the bar, including some accommodating resistance possibly. All right. And then kind of in the middle between strength speed and speed strength was just kind of our general power development is what I called it. And that was what we ran most of the year. And what we would do for most of the year on our speed days was just hang around 50 to 60% on our speed days, plus about 25% accommodating resistance. Okay, so just general speed work. Now that's not to say with novice athletes you couldn't run more strength speed more often, so a little more bar weight. That might work too. We never really did it, but that's not to say it wouldn't work. So most of the year we were around 50 to 60%. And then when we needed to start peaking them or getting them ready for like conference or regionals or nationals or whatever their big event was, or maybe even playoffs, we would start shifting the emphasis from power to speed. So what we would do is their percentages on dynamic day would go from 50 to 60 down to 30 to 40. But what we would do at that point to help with more speed is increase the band tension. So most of the year we would run about 25% band tension. And then once we needed to start getting faster, we would bump their bands up. And I think we would almost, I want to say we would almost double it. So a lot of times, like if a kid was, or no, we would go up 2 band levels. Yeah, for the most part, we'd go up 2 band levels. So like, let's say a kid was going average bands most of the year, which would be about 150 pounds of tension at the top. We would throw a light band on top of that. Okay, so a mini band would be 1 level, and then the light band would be 2 levels. Each level of band is basically separated by a mini band. So we would bump them up to like 250 pounds of band tension, which should speed them up because they have more band tension pulling them down faster down, the faster you go up. And then drop their bar weight down. So their bar weight was geared more. Now the bar weight wasn't true explosive work because that's body weight work, right? Or maybe even like 10% would be true explosive work. But we're shifting to be more specific towards what we need, the type of contractions that we need at a certain type of year. So it wasn't sport specific, it was more muscular trait specific, if that makes sense. So that's kind of how we ran it. So that was with our athletes. Now with a lifter, you kind of go opposite. Like for a lifter, I think it's a little more simple. Like basically stick between 50 to 60%. Sometimes I like 30 to 40%, depending on where I'm at. And then you basically do your circa max going into the meet. I know some guys I train with like to do a speed strength phase where they put a shitload of bands on. On week one, they put a shitload of bands on, and this is not circa max, it's more bands than circa max. They'll put a shitload of bands on, work up to a 1 rep max, and then the next week is some sets, some doubles with that same band tension. And that's usually like, I want to say 8 weeks out from the meet or so, 10 or 8 weeks. And then 3 weeks out from the meet, they do their actual circa max, which is 40% bands, and just add bar weight until you can't go anymore. So that's kind of how we ran it. That's what I did. I don't know if that's exactly what Louis or fucking Verkhoshansky or Sif meant when they were talking about speed strength, but that's kind of how I classified it, and that's how we ran it. So I hope that answers your question. That was a long fucking winded answer. We're getting a ton of good feedback from coaches that are putting the system in place. Great results, good feedback from the athletes. So I hate to say I told you so, but I fucking told you so. So I'm trying to get out more, trying to get the word out. So if you want to get a seminar in your area, talk to your gym owner or whatever, and we'll set something up. We got a question. What's my favorite exercise for core strength and stability? Are you trolling me? Are you trying to get me to go off on core? I won't do it. I'm going to assume you're talking about abs. So, like, obviously your big lifts are going to help your core and stability. Some of the core stuff I've been doing lately in my training that I like a lot, and with our athletes, I like to do a side bend variation at least once a week, whether it be dumbbell, standing on a band, overhead banded side bend, seesaw abs, throw a bar on your back, and just rock back and forth. Works pretty well. I've actually been doing a little bit of cardio lately. What I'll do is we have a 60-foot length turf, and I'll just walk back and forth on that for 15 minutes with a 40-pound dumbbell, and just switch hands every trip. So get some ab work in there, get my heart rate up a little bit, and work some grip strength at the same time. That's working pretty good. Decline sit-ups, our old-fashioned decline bench are always good. Big thing there is go back slow. Those have been working well lately. GHR sit-ups on the GHR. If you're a real badass, you can go single leg sit up on a GHR. I am not, so I haven't done those in quite a while. Pull down abs, hanging leg raise. Those are probably my go-tos. Studying for my NFCA, got any tips? Learn. Memorize, and you should, this is a good tool anyways to guide your training, but make sure you learn, what the primary energy systems are at different intensities and duration of training, and the rest intervals. That was helpful. I feel like there was a lot of that on there. And like they may ask you a sport, and then ask you what the best work to rest ratios are to get conditioned for that sport. Those types of things. I think there's a table in the text that breaks all that shit down. But like I said, that's a good thing to learn anyways. A lot of it is common sense. There's a little bit of physiology on there. I feel like your kinesiology a little bit, know your movement planes. The videos are easy. It's like anything, like the practical part where they ask you about videos, the stuff that's wrong is so blatantly wrong, like you'll be fine. I feel like the biggest thing with that test was just being able to pay attention for that long. If you could sit down and pay attention, and because it's all multiple choice on a computer, you can whittle out the answers and figure it out. As long as your knowledge base is not too bad. Don't get freaked out by it. But yeah, and if you go on Google, and you can find a few practice tests. So do that.